Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. I'm Ben. I'm from sunny Australia, and I'm here tonight, this morning, this afternoon, to talk to you about refusal as redesign. So you can all see my slides. Excellent. Okay, so this is going to be a little bit of a contrary conversation and presentation to some of the previous three that we've just had, but that's a good role to fill in one that I am fairly familiar with. So privacy, first battleground of digital rights, right? Information freedom was the second one, and now we face the third and the most critical struggle. So it's the fight not just against AI systems, but against the very premise that technological colonization can be made ethical through better governance. So, like power lines cutting through communities without consent, AI systems are being deployed to reshape our cognitive and cultural infrastructure. The question isn't whether they do it well, it's whether they have the right to do it at all. So, fundamental question here, right? They ask, is this system making our community better? And we respond, who gave you the right to reshape our world? This isn't about impact assessment. It's about the political theory of legitimacy. Just as colonial powers claim to bring civilization while extracting resources, tech giants claim to bring AI benefits while harvesting our data, standardizing our expressions, and overriding our autonomy. When was the last time a tech giant proved their right to reshape our cognitive infrastructure? When was the last time an ethics board questioned not just how, but whether AI systems should exist in our communities at all? So the current problem, look at how power operates. Community as consultant, they reduce our lived experience to user feedback. Inevitable deployment. They transform their commercial desires into technological inevitability, reduced expertise. They dismiss our deep community knowledge as anecdotal evidence and a complete lack of contestation. They build systems of governance that legitimate but never prevent. I'm gonna pause there for a second, and now I feel like it's the part where you put your bona fides. So I'm deeply involved in global AI security and setting AI security standards. I work in that field for a living for a global telco. Um, I've got a piece coming out, commissioned and paid by the Brookings Institution on AI safety. I've written on AI security for the majority world for Oxford and Cambridge. I've got a deep history of writing let's just say difficult pieces that my wife wishes that I wasn't writing, but I feel somewhat compelled to do so. So this isn't just about bias or fairness, right? It's about the fundamental illegitimacy of deploying AI systems without proving their right to exist in our communities. This isn't just about better AI. This is about who has the power to reshape human society. So my response is threefold, right? Each mechanism builds on critical theory and practical resistance. So you've got the refusal as redesign methodology. That's about transforming individual documentation and being individuals into collective power for systemic change. And then you've got legitimate rejection pathways. So converting that knowledge into non-negotiable grounds for system withdrawal. Third, barrier examination tools. So we need to systematically identify and dismantle the structures that prevent meaningful contestation of AI implementation in our communities. Each mechanism follows a progression, right? So documentation to collective action to fundamental redesign. Like the cyberpunks who made privacy non-negotiable, we make community consent fundamental. So you're sitting there and you're like, oh yeah, how do you plan on implementing that? So documentation tools, right? Straight off the bat. We need to, in our communities, document not just the impacts, but what these are when they are fundamental violations of autonomy. Each documentation becomes evidence not just of failure, but of illegitimacy and then collective resistance. So individual documentations become collective power, but not only that, I think people need to understand that there are software tools out there right now, and there are people fighting the good fight against AI companies like Google, sorry, mate, and Meta and OpenAI and Anthropic and all of these happy clappers, right? And so when artists deploy destructive anti-AI tools like Nightshade to protect their work, when communities use Glaze to protect their cultural heritage, when workers expose training data bias, each act proves that resistance is possible. And from here comes redesign. From this collective resistance emerges fundamental redesign, not better AI systems, but better ways of deciding whether AI systems should exist at all. Consider AI hiring systems. They claim to find the best candidates while encoding dominant cultural norms and with mathematical certainty into a system. They label local communication patterns as inefficient while enforcing cultural standardization. Through this framework, documentation exposes not just bias, but the fundamental illegitimacy of the system in situ. Collective resistance against these systems proves that alternatives are possible, and redesign emerges from community power, not from corporate permission. We build 4 pillars of power: formal validation, convert that community experience into irrefutable evidence; clear criteria, we define bright lines that trigger mandatory withdrawal; legal framework, creating enforceable community veto power; self-determination, making technological sovereignty non-negotiable. Each pillar transforms impact assessment from corporate checkbox to community power. Through systematic analysis, right, we need to expose how NDAs silence worker knowledge, how IP claims, hide system operations, economic pressure forces adoption, and limited alternatives constrain choice. Each barrier exposed becomes a point of intervention. Each structure revealed becomes a target for dismantling. We transform technical evaluation into a community power base. From stakeholders to decision makers, documentation as a record to documentation as a weapon, process into power. This isn't reform, this is revolution in the guise of governance. Ideas are freedom, but prescriptions are colonialism. Tools enable resistance, but mandates are oppression. What we can say is this: every documentation builds our case. Every refusal proves our power. Every collective action shows that another future is possible. This isn't a roadmap, it's a theory of change. These aren't instructions, they're proofs of possibility. This isn't a plan, it's a framework for revolution. The cyberpunks made privacy non-negotiable. The free software movement made freedom fundamental. Now we make community consent essential. This isn't just resistance, it's redesign. Not just refusal, but reconstruction. Not just contestation, but reclamation. The future isn't inevitable, it's ours to determine. The rollout of AI isn't a natural disaster. It's a choice made by those with power, betting that we'll accept their vision as inevitable, but we are not passive consumers of their future. Every algorithm deployed without consent, every system implemented without oversight reveals their greatest fear: that we'll realize our collective power to demand transparency, enforce accountability, and shape technology to serve our communities rather than control them. The question isn't whether AI will transform society, it's whether we'll let them transform it without us. Thank you.